What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this NBA 5-game Thursday slate. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys want to be entered into our $25 giveaway, please like, subscribe, and comment your overall favorite play on the slate. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future NBA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on Draftkings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this NBA 5-game slate, but you guys know I have to talk about the Patreon success real quick because we had another successful night all the way around. I think last night was the most Patreon success overall we've had as a community. Everybody posting screenshots, so I really did like what I saw in the Patreon Discord. I only included some of the screenshots, and I just wanted to talk overall strategy with you guys because last night we were waiting for that Clippers hammer that we never got, so I'll talk about that. I included a screenshot of my single entry lineup, and I want to talk about that here in just a second. But this person turned $5 into 150, got first place out of 237 people. This person cashed in every single one of their contests, played a single entry lineup in both cash and GPP. This player utilizing the leverage sheet, some of my favorite spots. Jimmy Butler was my favorite GPP last night, came in at just under 4% owned. Garrett Temple wasn't bad. Danny Green, I mentioned on the stream, flamethrower, 32.25 points, and then also included some other leverage plays like Beal. Steph Curry was also there, but man, he did disappoint. So all these players overall did very, very well. And this was my personal single entry lineup. And I just want to talk about it real quick because, again, I was waiting all night long for the late night hammer. I was waiting for, obviously, Kawhi Leonard or Paul George to come out with some injury news. I was waiting for them to sit. And because of that, I had placeholders. I had Kobe White. I had Garrett Temple. I had Harrison Barnes. And I also had Zach LaVine as my placeholders. My core four were Jimmy Butler, Washington, Cousins, and Drummond. They were the most obvious plays according to our leverage sheet and just standing out in terms of overall ownership percentage. So these last four players I was ready to pivot off of, but we never got that news. But worst case scenario is I ended up playing all these players that had a tremendous amount of minutes and a high over under, and because of that I still profited, and I did very, very well. In this contest, I think it was $1 and $6. I ended up getting 135th place here out of like 4,200 people. So overall it was great. This was just one of the contests that I entered. I don't have my screenshot from all the contests I entered that night or last night. But yeah, it's all about the strategy. It's all about the late night hammers. And let's go ahead and finally dive right into this NBA slate. Right now, we're looking at a 5-game slate, and we have some injury news here right off the bat. Coming from this Philly and Brooklyn game, we have Korkmaz still out for Philly. And for Brooklyn, we still have Durant, Dinwiddie, and Claxton out. We're also pending injury news on Kurix and Perry. So definitely have to wait on the injury news from Brooklyn to see if there's any more benefactors here from this lineup. Going over to Cleveland and Memphis, this is the lowest over-under by far in the slate, so not too much interest here. And you also have to keep in mind all these injuries are still the same, so all the price tags are up on a little bit on some of these players, except for a couple which we'll talk about. But again, it's a 2-11 over-under, very avoidable game. We saw Cleveland, I had talked about Sexton and or Drummond have a ceiling game yesterday if they scored over 83 points, and they did. They scored 95. Like, are you kidding me? They have been disappointing, and they ended up not playing. I think it was like 5 minutes left in the fourth. It was a good stretch, but it's funny because they both have value. So can you just imagine if they played the whole fourth quarter and this was a competitive, higher scoring game, they would have all same value. So they didn't do bad. Won't hate them for that. But again, the Cleveland Cavaliers have been just disappointing as of late, and we kind of expected that. With Memphis, we have the same injuries. All the price tags are up on these guys, and again, they're playing in the pace down spot, so not too much interest there. With Dallas, we have Trey Burke out officially, which will impact Dallas, and also Porzingis. We already know about Porzingis. Then San Antonio still without Derek White. The Lakers are pending injury news here on Anthony Davis and LeBron James. That will definitely shake up the slate. And then last but not least, the Minnesota-Portland game, we have Noel, Okogie, Towns, Zach Collins, and Hood out for Portland. And Minnesota is without their guys they're usually without. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the very first game here, Philly versus the Brooklyn Nets. All the price tags here have actually come down. Makes it very intriguing for GPPs. I wouldn't be including these guys in cash games. It will be very interesting to see what Danny Green's ownership is based on what he did last night. Again, one of my favorite GPP options, and I even liked him as a cash option. A shooter in the pace-up spot. This is a pretty average to pace-up spot here for Danny Green. So like I said, based on what he did last night, projected at 26 minutes. Again, we just have to see what his ownership's looking like to see whether I like him in cash or GPP. But I do like him for a value play. Joel Embiid, $9,500, based on what he's been doing recently. A very good play. And again, in a very good matchup against somebody like Jarrett Allen, who plays very, very bad on defense. You always want to target the Brooklyn Nets bigs, at least in recent history. So Joel Embiid, a very good play, a 5.5 point per dollar value here on our sheet. Tobias Harris isn't a bad GPP option. And then also Ben Simmons, $8,900. All of these guys are great GPP options. I think Joel Embiid will be a bit on the chalky side just because of his matchup. Switching over to the Brooklyn Nets, we are still without Kevin Durant, guys. And Kyrie Irving went up in price tag, only $300 and $9,600. Based on what he did last game, he only played 30 minutes, and he ended up with 51.5 points. Let's go ahead and take a look at the usage chart here for the Brooklyn Nets. Without Kevin Durant on the floor, in about 45 minutes of sample size, he averages 1.74 fantasy points per minute. That's a bit unrealistic. He probably won't do that well going forward. But we could definitely expect, anything over 1.5-ish. That's where I have him pinned on my projection. And garnering a 31.9% usage rate, the second highest on the team, only to Karis LeVert. So if we take a look here, based on point per dollar value-wise, and again, this is like an average to pace-up spot for the Brooklyn Nets, he's projected at 57.6 points, which is a lot better for his value. I still think he's a very good play. I think without Kevin Durant, we're looking at a 10 to 11K range for Kyrie Irving, so he's slightly underpriced, and again, he's in a very good spot. If he's not chalky, I think he's going to be a GPP option, a great GPP option. But the big concerns are actually coming here from the rest of the starting lineup. Steve Nash put Bruce Brown into the starting lineup last game, and that paid off wonders for them. I mean, he was phenomenal. He was a lockdown defender, and he even contributed on the offensive side versus a very good Utah team. So $3,500 for a guy who's going to be projected at 25 minutes. I think he's going to get the start going forward. At least I hope he does for the Nets' sake. I mean, he was a very good player in Detroit. A 6.1 point per dollar value if he averages 0.81 fantasy points per minute, which is actually what he's penned here right now at. I think he's a very good player overall. And again, we have to see whether he's going to be chalky or not, but I do like him for value. Karis LeVert here at $6,800. I think he's going to be more of a GPP option just because he went up in price tag. He's only projected 27 minutes. He did very, very well last game in only 21 minutes, but he got off to a very bad start, and he did play in some garbage time and then came out late in the game. So his minutes are just up in the air right now. Just because of that uncertainty, I'm going to be pinning him as a GPP option. I still love him overall. He averages 1.46 fantasy points per minute without Kevin Durant, which is sensational for a guy that's only $6,800. Again, it's just the minutes that I'm scared about. Jarrett Allen had a phenomenal game last game. Won't expect that repeat performance here versus Joel Embiid. Only $6,400 and still is a good point per dollar value at 5.4K or 5.4, but only a GPP option. Definitely don't like him for cash. Taurean Prince, $3,500. He's only playing 22 minutes, and the rest of these guys are going to be GPP options. Switching over to Cleveland, again, I already talked about them at the beginning of the video. Andre Drummond went down in price tag. I really do like him. I think he's a safe bet, and I think he's definitely more of a cash play if his ownership is high. But outside of that, I don't like his upside again with the matchup. A very low over under. They're only scoring 83 and 94 points with all of these entries on the floor. And sorry, I just got a subscription notification in the middle of this video. Forgot to turn that off. That's TJ's face for you. But overall, I mean, 5.5 point per dollar value, $8,400. This is the cheapest you're going to see him all season long. They're only projected to score 104 points, but even that's a bit aggressive at this point. Looking down the line, Okoro, a 5 point per dollar value. I do like Sexton because he's gonna get the minutes, but again, only GPP options here from the Cleveland Cavs. I can say the exact same thing for the Memphis Grizzlies. Not too much that sticks out to me. I'm not going to waste your time. There's a lot more better plays here. In the Dallas game, Jalen Brunson is playing without Trey Burke and Porzingis, and without those two guys on the floor, he is averaging 1.07 fantasy points per minute and a 23% usage rate. So definitely like him at a $3,300. He's only projected at 22 minutes right now. He got 37 minutes in his last start. If he does start, I love him a lot more. It seems like they don't know what to do with his minutes, but if he's playing over 20 minutes, I think he's a sure bet to hit his value. He's only $3,300. He only has to get to 16 or 17 points to really do that. Right now, I have him as the highest point per dollar player on the slate at a 7.1 value. Josh Richardson, not that bad of a price tag, but again, I'm going to be avoiding the rest of these guys. The only guy that I'm interested in from this game is going to be Luka. Finally has been stepping up to the plate here. 71.5 DK points and 58.75 in his last two contests. That's what he should be doing without Porzingis. Got to a slow start, but I think he's another great option. I think he's going to be relatively low owned. At a 10.5K price tag, I do like him. There's a lot of good spend up options here on the slate. And speaking of spend up options, we have Jokic on the other side here in a good matchup. 10.9K. Don't mind him for GPPs. All of these guys are good GPP options, but again, none of these guys really benefit from injuries, so they're going to be priced accordingly because of that. Jamal Murray, $7,600. Don't hate that. Millsap, $7,600. And we still have Whittington out, but keep in mind that Michael Porter Jr. is back, so that's definitely going to eat into these guys' usage. Looking at the San Antonio game, we are without Derek White. Right now, LaMarcus Aldridge's price keeps going down. He's back, but he's only playing 27 minutes. I would like his price tag if he was playing over 30 minutes, but I don't know what the deal is with him. It's kind of sad to see one of my favorite players on the Spurs just kind of go into a descent here near the tail end of his career. Lonnie Walker at $4,300. The guard play is just phenomenal. One of these guys seems to have a ceiling game every single game, whether it's DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson has been on fire, but again, all of these guys are just GPP options in a slight pace down spot here versus the Lakers. If I had to name my favorite one, it's definitely going to be DeMar DeRozan. Right now, his price tag is at $7,900, which is pretty priced accordingly. But again, we know his ceiling, and I also like Keldon Johnson. Switching over to the Lakers here, we are still pending injury news on LeBron James or Anthony Davis. If one of those two does sit, it's going to shake up the entire slate, and we're going to be looking at the Lakers. Hopefully, we get injury news before lock. We probably won't because it's going to be a 10 o'clock p.m. slate. Again, keep in mind, guys, this slate does start at 7:30, and I'm going to revisit this picture. Right now, Anthony Davis at $9,800, and probably one of the best matchups you'll ever have against either Aldridge or Jakob Hurtel, is in a very, very good spot. $9,800 for AD is just criminal. Right now, he's only rating a 5.1 point per dollar value on their sheet, but again, if LeBron James does sit, you're going to load up on Anthony Davis and never look back. But don't want to get you guys looking at this team until somebody is ruled out. Last but not least, let's talk about the Minnesota game. This is the highest over-under on the slate. So if you're looking for remaining pieces, whether it be in cash, whether it be in GPP, this is a great game to target. It's also a late-night hammer, so you can pivot off of people. You can anticipate on some random injuries that come out of this game. There shouldn't be, but if there is, more in your favor. Hernan Gomez, the last game, went off the rails, scored 46.5 points in 34 minutes. Probably won't do that again, but he's still the best point per dollar value here on our sheet. A 4.4K price tag and a 5.3 point per dollar value. And then D'Lo has finally been stepping up, yet in another pace up spot. He still only averages 1.18 fantasy points per minute to start the season, and it's 7.7K price tag. I just like him in GPPs. The same with all these guys. Ricky Rubio, you can pretty much just not include at this point. Only playing about 20 minutes a game, which is just crazy to me. Malik Beasley is another guy that I like for GPP, 6.1K. And we'll switch to the very last game. Before I updated my custom projections, Fantasy Cruncher had Derek Jones and Robert Covington the best value on the entire slate, even that of Brunson. So I will say that Derek Jones and Covington look great on, if you just give them the eye test, but a 4.1K and 5.3K price tag is pretty expensive for these guys when you look at their fantasy points per minute. Like I'll just show you guys right here. To start the season, Derek Jones, and this is in 197 minutes of sample size, he's only averaging 0.6 fantasy points per minute. And also Covington, a 10% usage and only averaging 0.71 fantasy points per minute. So I don't know if it's just a slump that they're in, if really Damian Lillard and McCollum are taking all the usage, which is actually what it's showing here, and if they're really just taking a back seat and they're accepting their role here on this team. But those values really aren't that good when you look at my custom projections showing a 4.4 value and also a 4.3 for Derrick Jones. I mean, just look at their vlogs. They haven't been doing much. I get that it's a pace-up game, but it's just terrifying. Robert Covington actually had a decent game last game, but he still only got to 29. Like, I'm still waiting for these guys to get the ceiling game. I do like them for value as last pieces. I just don't think you should prioritize them like Fantasy Cruncher was at the beginning of the video, or before I started the video. McCollum, an 8.5K price tag, has actually been averaging 0.01 more fantasy points than Damian Lillard, so I do like him at an 8.5K price tag. And Damian Lillard's price tag has been going down. He's been coming close to his price tag and covering the value. So I like both of these guys for GPPs, and if I had to prefer one or the other, it's going to be Damian Lillard. We know his potential. Don't look at recency bias. He will pick it up eventually. And that will end my video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future NBA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.